Okay, hello, hello, hello. Glad to have you here today. Today we're going to be talking about subtracting integers. You should be on page 11 in your notes, right? Then when you come into class, we're going to do ALEKS 3.4, which means you should have these three finished, which also means you've already taken the quiz, right? So over here, make sure you're putting down the dates we did these things so you're keeping track. It becomes like your tracker. You could put a check over here saying you know you did those assignments and turned them in. Can become your own little tracker, guys. Okay, so you can see that what we're going to be doing, we're going to talk some more about adding and subtracting integers. Then we're going to do a review. Then we're going to do this. We are not going to do the final as a test. Might do it as an extra credit assignment for you. So we're going to look at it, but we are not going to do that as a test. Okay. So you'll have the 0A for a test score. You'll have for the related, you have two essentials with multiplying integers and probabilities. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Okay. So let's review this. Okay. What's it look like when we subtract? Okay. So we're going to do these three problems, and I'm going to teach you something about subtraction because this is the hardest part of this whole unit. This is where the most mistakes are going to be made. This is where you need to be the most careful. So you got to watch what you're doing. You got to pay attention. I'm going to show you a trick. All right. And then, but I'm going to show you why it works. Okay. All right. Okay. Notice I drew double number lines. I'm going to try and explain something to you. Okay. All right. So let's look. We're going to look for things that are equivalent. So we're going to start with this first one, 6 minus 4. Okay, so when you draw this on a number line, this should be pretty simple for you, this first. Now the other two, not so much. But this one should be pretty simple for you, okay? Because 6 minus 4 is 2. You already knew that. But my question for you is this. What would you add to 6 to get 2? Because 6 minus 4 is 2, right? What would you add to 6? Go back to the notes, okay? Go back to your notes. Which direction do we go if we want to go down, right? We want to go down 4. What did we add to go down 4? Think about that for a minute. Okay, so what we did was we went down, we added negative 4, right? But we still got we wound up at 2. So we could say that 6 plus negative 4 equals 2 also. In other words, 6 plus negative 4 is equivalent to 6 minus 4. Okay, that's a really important word for where we're going to be going next in the next for the rest of the semester. You want to understand what that word equivalent means. We get the same result when. Okay, that's equivalent. Okay, so now let's think about this. This one's going to take a little thought. If we start at 4, remember that's what that first number always means. That's where we start. And we subtract 6. Which direction are we going to go? Where are we going to land? Okay, so if I'm subtracting, I'm going down, right? Remember that if we're on a vertical number line, if we're subtracting a positive number, we're going down, right? Because this means subtract positive 6. So if we're subtracting positive 6, then we're going to go down and we wind up at negative 2. And because 4 is 4 away from 0, right? So we go down 2 more, we're going to be at negative 2. So 4 minus negative 6, or 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Okay, so you're drawing this so you get an understanding of what we're talking about, right? So let's look at this. We start at 12, and then we're going to subtract 15. So we're subtracting positive 15. So we're going to go down 15. Okay, so there we are. We're down 15. How far away is it to 0? Right? That's a question. How far away is it to 0? Think about it for a minute. It's going to be 12 away from 12, right? So 0 is going to be right there. And we went down 3 more. So that's basically -1, -2, -3. So we landed at -3. So 12 minus 15, and remember this is positive minus positive 15. We're taking away positives. That's going to equal -3. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. Here we want to add something. 4 plus what will give us -2? And 12 plus what gives us -3? Okay, this is a hard one, right? Think about that. But also think about if we started at 4, right? We started at 4, just like here. And we're going to go down, right? And we're still going to go down 6, right? So we're still going down 6. What was that? What were we adding to go down 6? And you should remember that we're adding -6. And we still land at -2, right? 0 is still right here. This is still 0. Okay. And so we land at -2. So let's look at what we're coming up with, because this is very, very important. So what we're saying is 4 plus -6 equals -2, but we also said 4 minus 6 equals -2. And we're going to say, so think about this one now. So we start at 12. 12 plus what equals -3? Okay, I'm going to let you think about it. Okay, so we added -5, -15, right, to go that same. So what we're saying is this, we would get 12 plus -15, which what we're saying also is that means this 12 minus 15, these two are equivalent. What we're saying is these two are equivalent. What we're saying is these two are equivalent. We're going to want to know how to do that. We're going to use that. But right now, let's just keep talking about subtraction. Okay, we'll use those other two number lines later. Let's look at this. So I want you to think about this for a minute, though. This is, one of you came up with this statement before, that if I have 4 minus 6 equals -2, that I could rewrite it as 4, and then we have this, right? But we could say, if we could change this to addition, as long as we change this to its opposite. We're going to use the inverse operation, but we have to use the operational inverse. Because the operation is adding, we're going to additive inverse. The additive inverse of +6 is -6. In other words, what's the opposite? We're going to add its opposite. Okay? You want to write that down. We can change subtraction to addition. The reason why we want to change subtraction to addition, so the reason why I want to be able to do this is if I have 4 minus 10 minus 4, I want to be able to use commutative property. So what I want to be able to do is say, oh, well, that means I could also say, if this is plus -10 plus -4, then I can now, if it's addition, I could say, well, I have 4 plus negative 4 plus negative 10. Oops, that was already there. And these make a zero pair. This just equals negative 10. So what we're trying to do is get at how we can change addition and subtraction into addition. Okay, that's what we're moving towards. So what we want to be able to do is, if we're thinking about this, well, let's just think about the math first, the simple subtraction with a number line. So on this first one, we start at 9. On the second one, we start at 9. On the third one, we're actually going to start at negative 9, but we'll just go ahead and put it in here, right? Now, if we think about what we've talked about, if we're subtracting a positive, then we're going to go down, right? We're going to go down 13. Okay, so you should have drawn that. And one of the questions, if we want to know where we're at, we look and say, how far away are we from 0? Well, 9 is 9 away from 0. So what do we have left? We have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. This equals negative 4. Okay, 9 minus 13 equals negative 4. So this one said we're subtracting positive 13. Now this is what it looks like when you subtract a negative. So you might want to write that up here, subtract a positive. Because you want to know what these look like. This is what it looks like to subtract a negative. But the positive is opposite of the negative, right? So we must go the opposite direction. If we're taking away cold, write this down if it makes sense. If you're taking away cold, it gets hotter, right? So if we're taking away cold, our temperature is going up. So we're going to go up 13. Well, zero's down in here somewhere, right? So zero's down in here. We just went up. That means we're at 22. So 9 minus negative 13 is positive 22. That's something to wrap your brain around, isn't it? That's not probably what most of you were expecting. So see why you're paying attention to this? Because this is not easy. This is where subtraction's the hardest thing to understand. Okay, so now when we look at this, what we want to say is, what would we add to 9 to get the same result? In these two situations, what would we add to 9 to get the same result? Well, what would you add to 9 to get negative 4? Well, remember from our addition video, we're going down, right? That was adding a negative. So we'd be adding negative 13. So 9 plus negative 13 equals negative 4. Okay. And 9 plus, well, that was positive 13, right? So we'd add positive 13 to get to 22. So that's positive 13. Now you hopefully are looking for a pattern. Okay, we're looking for a pattern. So we're going to do a lot of this. Look for a pattern. Can you find a rule? We want to find rules that make math simpler for us. Help us make less mistakes. So think about this one. What would negative 9 minus negative 13 be? Think about the direction you go. Where would you land? Okay, draw it out. So we'd go up, right? Because that's what direction we moved when we subtracted a negative here. If we subtract cold, the temperature goes up. So 9 is 9 away from, negative 9 is 9 away from 0. And we land at 4. Negative 9 minus negative 13 is 4. What would we add to negative 9 to get 4? Think it out for a minute. Come to class with that. All right? And then we'll finish some of this other stuff because I want to help you come up with a rule. And then I want us to think about some things. This basket right here, this is important. So let's look at this. Okay? And they want to know what is a 0.8 units to the left of 2. Which one of these describes that? You're going to add a number 8 units to the left of number 2. Which one of those works? That's all it's asking for. Okay. Give that some thought. Come to class with that thought. Come to class with this thought. What would we add to -9 to get -4? Ask yourself that question. Okay? All right. Hey, that's it. We'll cover the rest in class. Give you something to think about. Probably confuzzled your brain a little bit. This is the hardest concept. Come to class with questions, and I'll help you because you want to know this. Talk to you later. Have a good night.